Hi, everybody. It's Harvard lawyer Lee. I'm going to be breaking down the secrets of the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial today. Unless you have been under a rock, you have probably been watching the trial, talking about it, thinking about it. It has been an absolutely wild ride. So today I want to talk about three topics. The first topic I want to talk about is who are the very worst possible witnesses in the case so far, and who are the best witnesses so far. I also want to talk about whether or not Amber Heard is about to lose the case to Johnny Depp. And then finally, I want to answer some of your questions about the case. So let's start with the witnesses. Who are the witnesses who are really bad, just really the worst? And I think there are some standouts in that category, but I think the people I think are some of the worst may surprise you. I'm taking it from a legal perspective. And specifically, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the person who is offering the witness. So, in other words, if it's Johnny Depp offered the witness needs to help Johnny Depp. If Amber Heard offers the witness needs to help Amber Heard. So, the first witness is that I think really was problematic for Johnny Depp, even though the witness was offered in Johnny Depp's case, is Laurel Anderson, the marriage counselor. She concluded that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard mutually abused each other. She did say some things that were positive for Depp. For example, she said that Johnny Depp tried to walk away, that Amber Heard just came after him and provoked him. So that was helpful for Johnny. But I think the fact that she came down on the side of believing that they were both abusing each other is really harmful for Johnny's case. Then the other good thing, though, that she said for Johnny, I thought Amber's comment that was in the doctor's notes, which was, will she have advantage if she leaves him but files with police for abuse first? Wow, that was really a big comment. That was very powerful because that kind of comment means that it can be used on cross, which we'll be hearing next week, to say, Amber, isn't it true that you just made up the abuse claims because you thought it would give you an advantage in the divorce? That will be the subject matter of cross. And that note really was helpful to them. Still, I thought overall the comment about mutual abuse was very harmful for his case. So that's why I put her on the worst list. The next witness I think will really surprise you. I thought Dr. David Kipper was one of the worst witnesses for Johnny Depp. Dr. David Kipper was Johnny Depp's private doctor. He diagnosed Depp with numerous disorders like bipolar, substance abuse. I didn't really think any of that was all that harmful. I guess it was harmful in the sense that it certainly made Depp look like somebody with a serious substance abuse problem. But he did say that Johnny Depp tried very hard to get off opiates, which contradicted what Amber Heard's lawyer had said. You may remember that in the opening statement, Amber Heard's lawyer said, Johnny Depp brought this on himself because he absolutely refused to get sober. And Dr. David Kipper's evidence said, well, he sure was trying. He may not have been successful or may have been, but he really tried to get off at least opiates. So I think, though, the biggest reason that I put Dr. David Kipper on the list was because I felt like Johnny Depp said he told Dr. Kipper that the real way he got his finger cut off was because Amber Heard threw the vodka bottle at him. And Dr. David Kipper mentioned that he'd heard that, but didn't firmly come on board with, yeah, Johnny Depp told me that. And that's, he told me that at the time, which I think would have been helpful. And the third witness, and this probably won't surprise you, is Debbie Lloyd, Johnny Depp's nurse. And people called her at the time the I don't recall witness because she just said, I don't recall, I don't recall, I don't recall to virtually everything. And that made it difficult really to even follow her testimony, and certainly meant she wasn't as helpful as she could have been on that. So I thought, she also talked about having actually been present looking for the missing piece of Johnny Depp's finger in the home in Australia. She talked about the writing on the walls, but because she was so reluctant to testify, it just didn't come across, I don't think, in a real powerful way. So, and then I want to talk about some of the witnesses I thought were really good for Johnny Depp. I loved Isaac Baruch. I just thought he was a fantastic witness. He was earthy and believable, humanized Depp. And I thought that was really important. I didn't think Christy Dombrowski was a great start to the trial. She just wasn't as strong a witness. And she was sort of defensive in the way she handled the cross-examination. But I thought Isaac was fantastic. So I would put him on the really good witnesses for Johnny Depp's side. He also testified that he didn't see Amber Heard having any bruises. And I thought that was important. Another witness I would put on the really good side would be Travis Mcgivern. He was a member of Depp's security team, you may remember, and he testified that he saw Amber throw a can of Red Bull at Johnny Depp, then throw a purse at him, then spit on him, and then punch him. The reason why I thought his testimony was so important was because he was actually one of the first people to say, I saw this. I saw her abuse him. I thought that was really important. I also would put Dr. Shannon Curry way at the top of best witnesses for Johnny Depp. She was the forensic psychologist who was hired by Depp's team and talked about her main thesis was that Amber Heard had really exaggerated her symptoms of PTSD. So her claim that PTSD was part of her damages just wasn't a very good claim. But I thought the more important testimony from her was all of the stuff. I mean, it was a lot. She talked about she herself would diagnose Amber Heard with histrionic and borderline personality disorder. Both of those are very serious disorders. And then she went straight to the heart of whether or not Amber Heard was a credible witness, right there with her testimony. So she said, what are the characteristics of people who would have this disorder? Explosive anger when somebody needs space. She said, well, that was exactly what Johnny Depp was saying supported his case. He had been saying, you know, Amber would come at me and I would try to get away. So supported that. Said the person would be concerned with their image, very attention seeking, and often very attractive. Also supported Johnny's thesis that Amber really just wanted to do all of these accusations against him so that she could get an advantage in the divorce. And then when it came to the Washington Post op-ed, so that she could get more publicity around that. She said it could be very predictive of a person who's abusive to the other party. And talked about that kind of personality would have a temper coupled with a charming and personable nature, which many of the witnesses talked about for Amber. Said that person would be very full of rage and intense fear of abandonment, also directly supported Johnny's case. So, but when it came to her biggest testimony was that she thought Amber Heard was in the 98th percentile for intentional exaggerating, meaning she had engaged in extreme levels of exaggeration. So the next witness I would put on the really positive for Johnny Depp's side was Terence Doherty. He was the ACLU COO and general counsel. Some of what he said, he talked about the ACLU wrote the op-ed with Amber Heard. He also, very importantly, said that the original draft included Johnny Depp's name. It got pulled out by Amber Heard's lawyers. Now, one of Amber Heard's arguments had been, you don't know this is about Johnny Depp, even though it talked about domestic abuse and sexual violence. That could have been a long time ago. And so it said 2 years ago, but it could have been somebody else. It never mentioned his name. But that brought it right back into, no, Amber Heard was writing about Johnny Depp. He also is the one who brought out that she had timed the publicity of the Washington Post op-ed to coincide with the Aquaman release, her movie. And that will go straight to Johnny Depp's argument that she had an intent to defame him, that was one of her purposes. And one of the biggest pieces of evidence, I did a full video on this. Please check out my video, Amber Heard's $7 million charity lie. The ACLU, he said, got less than half of the money they were supposed to get. Amber promised that she would take the $7 million she got from Johnny Depp in the divorce and divide it among two charities. One charity would be the ACLU, the other an LA Children's Hospital. Well, what happened was she gave $350,000 that first year to the ACLU. And then there were some other payments, one from Johnny Depp and two from funds, one of which was pretty definitely the ACLU thought controlled by Elon Musk, the other one possibly controlled by Elon Musk, that added up to more, but she didn't really give all of that money. So I thought that was really powerful testimony. I would definitely put him in the good category. Then, and most people probably wouldn't have picked this out. This is sort of the nerd lawyer in me, but Jack Wiggum was a fantastic witness for Johnny Depp because he talked about the damages. He really brought home the damages. Johnny Depp has said, I lost all this business because of what happened, the Washington Post op-ed that Amber Heard wrote. Well, Amber Heard and Heard's team in opening statements said, you were going to lose Disney anyway. You weren't going to get Pirates 6. They'd already had a dossier on you, and it didn't even include this. They already thought they weren't going to hire you, and you weren't going to work for them anyway. But Jack Wiggum said, I personally negotiated a deal with Disney for $22.5 million for Depp to be in Pirates 6. And that's customarily done in this business. You negotiate it up front, and then you take the last, then you take that, you send it to the lawyers, they write it up as a contract. But it was a done deal. The only thing left was signing the papers. So I thought that was super positive for him. Then we flip over to Amber's side of the case. So I would give, a best witness, worst witness list so far, but I have to put both of her witnesses so far on the not a good witness list. I thought Dr. Don Hughes was really a big fail for Amber, really a problem because everybody was waiting for that first witness. The first weeks of trial had been, all Johnny, and then now we've got Amber's first witness up, and Dr. Don Hughes just didn't bring it home. I didn't think. She was so defensive, and she was clearly annoyed with the judge. She was annoyed when she couldn't read from her notes. She just seemed inexperienced and annoyed with the whole process. You may remember the time she looked at the jury and went, but that's not, you don't want that from your expert witness. So I thought that did not bring the great start to Amber Heard's case that she really wanted. And then Amber Heard, so many people have concluded that she just was not very believable, that her testimony didn't come across as sincere. It seemed more like she was exaggerating, that some stuff she said was clearly false. And, I would say if you were to poll, 50 people who certainly YouTube subscribers, most people just feel like she wasn't that great a witness. But, I do have to go back to what the UK judge wrote, because not every juror is going to feel like most people do. What the UK judge, Andrew Nichol, wrote, he said, and he heard from Amber, heard from Johnny, and many of these witnesses. He said, I accept that she, Heard, was the victim of sustained and multiple assaults by Mr. Depp in Australia. It's a sign of the depth of his rage. I mean, this was harsh, that he admitted scrawling graffiti in blood from his injured finger. And then when that was insufficient, dipping his badly injured finger in paint and continuing to write messages and other things. I accept her evidence of the nature of the assaults he committed against her. They must have been terrifying. I accept that Mr. Depp put her in fear of her life. That's what he concluded. So while certainly most people watching this week's testimony would say Amber came across poorly, and I'm putting her on the not good for Amber Heard list. But I think, there is a possibility that some jurors are going to think just like that particular UK judge did. And some jurors may believe that. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I would have to put both of her first two witnesses on the just didn't bring it home for you list, just not good witnesses list. And we haven't even gotten to cross yet. So that should be even worse for Amber Heard. So now I want to, so first of all, welcome everybody coming into the live. Good to have you. I see there's some questions in there, and I'm going to get to the questions. I'm going to give you just a little bit of an overview of what's coming next in the trial, I think, and then I'm going to start answering questions. So as to what's coming next, it is so important that everybody keep the focus, eye on the prize. What are these cases about? They're about defamation. There are three elements to defamation under Virginia law, under most states' laws. Publication, actionable statement, that means two things, defamatory and false. So draw a circle around that, so important, false. That's critical here. Then the third element is requisite intent. It's not enough to prove that someone said something that was false. Amber Heard, for example, in Johnny's case, has to have said something with the intent, knowing it was false, saying it anyway. So Johnny's case centers around the allegations or the statements in the Washington Post op-ed that he or that somebody, but I think clearly Johnny Depp, but someone was domestic abuse. That was the first one, that Amber Heard was a victim of domestic abuse and sexual violence. Those are the two critical pieces that I see in that particular op-ed. So that's Johnny's case. And he's got to prove that when Amber wrote that op-ed, when she said she was a victim of domestic abuse and sexual violence, it was false. Not just, actual false. She was wrong and she knew it. So false and intent. So on the other hand, Amber's case, also for defamation, same three elements, but here's what she says. She says, Johnny's lawyer, not Johnny, all those claims got ruled out by the court. She said, Johnny's lawyer did an online smear campaign and defamed me, Amber, in an interview with GQ in November 2018. And the online smear campaign to defame me and was aimed at getting me removed from my work with L'Oreal and from my role on Aquaman or in Aquaman. So as far as what to expect next, I think there are two huge pieces that are missing for Amber yet. She's just started her case. That doesn't mean she's not going to bring them, but they absolutely have to be brought or she cannot even conceivably win her case. The first thing is anything at all about her case against Johnny. We just really haven't heard that. She hasn't talked about it. I mean, there's just nothing yet where we have some witnesses to say, yes, Amber Heard was really hurt, harmed by what was said, not just the divorce, not just the abuse, but by what was said. The defamation she claims was made against her by Johnny's lawyer. And then the second thing she hasn't brought yet is anything at all about her damages to show there is a connection directly from what Johnny's lawyer said to what happened to her. And I'm wondering how she's going to even do that, because it seems like her career has done very well, not been held back in any way by what was said. But I assume she'll have some expert witnesses who will say she was harmed by that. So, and then I want to throw in who are the witnesses that I am most looking forward to. Well, I'll tell you who I most wanted to see. I really wanted Elon Musk to come. I was really, really bummed when they announced he was not going to come. That was, I think, going to be just centerpiece of the trial. But as far as the people I expect to come and who I'm really looking forward to, who will be the most interesting, the first is Whitney Heard Enriquez, Amber's sister. I really think she's critical because she was there. She also saw the hit that Travis Mcgivern saw. So she will come in. Amber says, I was just defending my sister who was about to be pushed down the stairs by Johnny Depp. So I really want to know what Whitney is going to say about that. And Whitney was there throughout. There are repeated statements about Whitney this, Whitney that, and, throughout that. The second witness I want to see, and this goes back to Lawyer Nerd, I admit this, the Disney witness who's on our list, because that is critical for damages. They say, Amber's team says, that Johnny Depp was going to lose that Disney work anyway. He wasn't going to get Pirate 6 no matter what because of other things that had nothing to do with Amber's op-ed. So I want to know, what is Disney going to say? Are they going to support that? Are they going to say, yeah, we were ready to jettison him? Seriously, Johnny Depp from Pirate 6, were they going to jettison him? I question that, but I am really looking forward to that witness. So where do I think the cross of Amber is going to go? I can see a few things. The first is I really think they need to hit the gifts to charity hard. I mentioned earlier, I have a video. Y'all check it out later. Amber Heard's $7 million charity lie. And they've got somebody from the Children's Hospital listed. So I really want to know what Amber's witnesses will say about, the fact that the money was never actually given to the Children's Hospital, or at least we think that. And the second thing I think that the cross will hit hard is that you can't, that statement she made about you can't hit a woman, you can't hit a man. And the contradiction between that and the audio tape where she says, I didn't punch you, Johnny, I hit you. I mean, direct contradiction. I did a short video on that. You can check that out too later, called Amber Heard Destroys Her Own Argument. So, and in fact, let me mention this while I'm thinking of it. Put your, in the comments, if there's something, a piece of testimony you're like really looking forward to in the cross, like what do you topic where you think they really ought to ask, put that in the comments. I'd be really curious what you think. The next thing I definitely want to hear is cross on the issue of sexual violence, because if you'll remember, that was the headline of the Washington Post op-ed, sexual violence. Well, the problem with that is Amber Heard had never mentioned sexual violence before. She didn't mention it in the divorce proceedings. She didn't mention it at any point up until then. I mean, there was nothing there. And then suddenly, here's this allegation of sexual violence. The ACLU witness said, well, we figured the Washington Post added that title. But Johnny's team says, we don't really care if they added that title. You, Amber Heard, adopted that because you then tweeted it out saying, look, here's the article I did in the Washington Post. So you took ownership of that when you tweeted that out. You took ownership even of that title, because she could have tweeted it and said, but, yes, okay, sure. But I didn't really, as far as sexual violence, I'm not really alleging that. That was the Washington Post. They added that, but everything else I claim as true. So that sexual violence piece, I think, is really missing. And I think she definitely needs to answer for that and talk about that in the cross. And then fourthly, I'm really interested in the cross about Johnny Depp's finger. It's such a contradiction because he told the ER that he cut it off with a kitchen knife by accident. Okay, and now he says he did that to protect her, now he says she actually cut it off when she threw a vodka bottle at me. So, but oddly, Amber's story up until now has not been cut it off with a knife in the kitchen, but it's been that he cut it off with a phone. I'd like to see some cross on like how you managed to cut off your finger with a phone. How does that even work? And why did she not go with the story of the kitchen and the knife? I find that really mystifying. So I'm looking forward to some cross on that. And then finally, I want to hear some cross on what the damages to her career are for her claims against Johnny, because I don't really see it. I kind of question that. So welcome, everybody. We've got a lot more people in the live, and thanks for coming in. I am going to answer some questions now. So the first question, I want to answer some that were asked all week long in videos that I did. So I appreciate people putting those questions in comments, and then I'll turn to some of the ones that people are asking in the live. In fact, I'll do that. I'll do it that way. I'm sounding confused. Okay, so somebody wrote me, said, if you remember, one of the first question out of the box to Amber was the Washington Post. Her lawyer said to her, so why are you here? And she said, something like, I'm here because of the Washington Post op-ed I wrote. And so William Graham wrote me, is that an admission? And I'd say, yeah, that is an admission. Now, it's not necessarily an admission that the title was hers, but it's an admission that she accepts ownership of the op-ed. So I think, yes, that was definitely an important admission. And Petra asked me, can Johnny win? That's such a big question, isn't it? Everybody's asking that. It's definitely possible. And what I mean by that is he has hit every element. You have to prove certain elements under the law, and he's hit them all. But defamation is in general a hard case to win. So he has to prove that what Amber said was false, and her intent was to say something she knew was false. I mean, that intent has to actually be there. It can't just be false and she said it. It has to be false with the intent. So, and it's easy to get caught up in all of the thought about all the testimony, all the facts, and to think, well, which one hit the other more? Or was Amber really the abuser versus Johnny? Was Amber the aggressor? And did she hit him more? Did she start it? But that's not really the issue. The issue really comes down to defamation, publication, actionable statement, that means defamatory and false, and requisite intent, knew it was false, made even though they knew it was false. So those things have to be proven. And that's different, from just who was the aggressor or who was the person. It has to be false that she was a victim of domestic abuse. It has to be false that she was a victim of sexual violence. So now, the question is not going to be, did Johnny Depp prove Amber abused him? That's not even going to be an issue in the case. Amber's case against him is, did Johnny Depp do an online smear campaign against me? Did his attorney defame me in an interview with GQ in November 2018 and then try to get me off my L'Oreal role and my Aquaman role? That's her case. And so nowhere in there is, did Johnny Depp hit Amber? And nor did Amber hit Johnny Depp in there. So, and with Johnny's case, of course, it's the domestic abuse and sexual violence. So everybody, and I think in the last 2 weeks, the lawyers will probably zero in on these issues because these are the ones that are going to matter. So Toy Insanity asked me, will Johnny take his lawyers to the Bahamas? I don't know. Great idea. It sounds like a lot of fun. I think he ought to. Lily J asked me what about Amber Heard's outfits? And that may seem like a frivolous question, like Amber Heard's outfits. Who cares, really? Amber Heard's outfits? No, I think it really matters. I mean, I always talk to my clients about what they're going to wear before we go to trial. I think it matters. And in this particular case, Amber Heard is claiming she's a victim. She's claiming, she uses that word, I'm a victim. She talks repeatedly about how he was bigger and stronger than she was and how he was, overpowered her and she was afraid for her life. And that's what the story she's telling. So she needs to be dressed like that role. And what would a person who was playing that role in a movie be wearing? I would say it's not like pinstripe button-up suits, dark suits and a tie. I would say the person who is making that claim would be dressed in a way that's much more believable as far as I'm small, I'm weak, I'm somebody who would be a victim. And she didn't dress like that. I don't think it's a small issue. I think it's actually a pretty important issue. We did another video, here's what Amber Heard wore to trial. So check that out later and you can see what I'm talking about. I went through the things. And interestingly, she dressed very differently for the UK trial than she did for the US trial. And I think her dress in the UK trial better fit the story she's telling than what she's been wearing in the US trial. So I got a lot of questions about hearsay. What is hearsay, right? Objection, 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 hearsay, objection. So here it is in nutshell format. Out of court statement offered to prove the truth of what it asserts. And then below that are a whole lot of exceptions. So another question I got was, why is it that medical witnesses can say, Amber told me this and Johnny told me that? Why is that possible? Well, the answer is because it's one of the exceptions to the hearsay rule. The theory is, you're not going to lie to your doctor. I mean, if you want medical treatment, you want good medical treatment, so you'll tell them the truth. And that's why it's an exception. But the hearsay itself is an out of court statement, meaning somebody said it who isn't here right now. I can't ask them if they said it. I say, Jane told me this, and Jane's not here. You can't ask Jane, did you say that? And I'm trying to prove it for truth. It's not like, why did you run out of the building, Lee? Because someone yelled fire. I don't have to prove there was a fire. That's not hearsay. I'm just explaining why I ran out of the building. So it's out of court statement offered to prove truth. So that's what it means. Now, and then what was that? Another person asked me, what was that weird long period in the middle? Like all of a sudden Johnny Depp's case finishes and we're like all ready for Amber's. And instead the lawyers get up and talk for a really long time to the judge. And then the judge rules against Amber. What was that about? Well, that was a motion to dismiss. We did a video on that, throw out Johnny's case. You can check that video out later. The motion to dismiss is really common, done in many cases, and it almost never wins. Nobody really thought it was going to win here. It's where at the end of the plaintiff's case, the defendant says, Judge, they just didn't even bring enough evidence. It's not even close. We are not going to let them go any further. Right, Judge? And what they want is for the judge to kick the case out. But that wasn't, it was never really expected that would be the case. So let me turn to some of your questions. What do you think about Amber facing the jury and Johnny not facing the jury? Oh, really, really good question. Thanks, Chris, for that. So facing the jury, I think, first of all, it's really important to face the jury. And you'll notice particularly like Dr. Curry faced the jury a lot when she was talking to the jury. And that is something you tell witnesses is look at the jury. Don't look at me. Look at the jury. Talk to them. They're the ones making the decision, not me, not your lawyer. You need to talk to the jury. And so I think that's an effective thing. I don't know why Johnny didn't do that. It's typically advice you give somebody. I will say that Amber took it twice too far. Do you remember when she turned to the jury one time and said, she was talking about how she felt like she had to leave, but she didn't want to. And she said, if I stay, it'll happen again. It'll happen again. No. Do you remember that? No. Well, that's totally not okay. You cannot talk to the jury during your testimony. And she was asking them a question, pulling them in. She turned away quickly. Nobody objected, but that was really not acceptable. But anyway, that's the story on that. Will facing the jury backfire? I don't think so. That's typical advice you give. It can make the jury uncomfortable if somebody just stares them down. I feel like she was probably following the advice of her counsel to do that because that is kind of common. So I think it will probably have been fairly effective with the jury if they believed her. And there's the question, right? Because so many people did not believe her. They didn't believe she was telling the truth. Did Amber give any money to the LA Children's Hospital? Interesting question. We'll have to find out. I am really looking forward to that. That is such a good question. And I think that cross is very important. You might think, okay, why does that matter? Who really cares if she gave money to the Children's Hospital? Because it's not critical that we prove that she gave money to the Children's Hospital. That has nothing to do with defamation, right? But here's why it matters. Remember that false part of defamation? Well, the false part of defamation means that the credibility of the witness matters. The credibility of the witness is all important. And so if you can hurt Amber's credibility, if they can damage that, then it matters. So that's why that sort of thing is relevant in the case and why I think it will be asked. Can the jury listen to evidence submitted when they deliberate after the case? That depends on the court. The court sometimes will allow the jury to take evidence out. Usually, in my experience, well, it's maybe 50-50. An audio tape, I don't know. It's really it'll be up to the judge. The judge will have to make that call, and I don't know what she does. I have had numerous times when a judge would, well, I've had it go both ways. A judge would allow, a judge wouldn't allow. So I can't, give an automatic answer. I don't know what the answer to that will be. She seems to be pretty open to evidence. I mean, in general, a lot of evidence came in that some judges might have even ruled out. I would think she'd be more open than most judges to letting the jury see it. So, interesting question. I don't know the answer yet. Okay. Let me see. I'm looking through. Is the judge really objective? When we first started, I felt like the judge might have been leaning a little bit Amber's way. I don't feel like that anymore. And that could have just been sort of an off the cuff thought. It's not necessarily that it was true. I do think one of the things she's done is allow a lot of evidence in. Like I said, if she let in some stuff that was very damaging to both sides. That's usually a sign of a pretty objective judge. That would be my best guess on whether she is or not. Let's see. Is there anything else? I'm looking for question marks, so I'm going through quickly. I'll read all the comments later. Will they bring in the PI she hired to testify against Johnny? I don't know. We'll see. I'm really looking forward to the next 2 weeks. I mean, I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. This is just a great example of a trial, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. So somebody's asked me, have you watched the behavior panel today? No, I haven't seen that. So I'll have to check that out. Thanks for the tip. That sounds really interesting. Can JD's team use that statement? I'm not sure which statement. She says, Johnny shoved me into the game table. I tell you that the sexual violence assaults, those are all new. And I guarantee you that this week, Johnny Depp's team is fly-specking every one of those, combing through for any contradiction. They're going to be looking for exactly the kind of thing you're talking about, where, just physically it doesn't make sense, and things like that. So I think that'll definitely come into play. Anyway, let's see. One last one. What happens when there's sanctions? Not turning over metadata. So if there are sanctions in a case, then what will happen, sanctions absolutely vary across what happened. They can range from, sometimes a sanction could be you lose the case. That's really rare. That never happens. Usually it would be that certain evidence gets ruled out. You can't bring it at all because, you aren't able to prove where the evidence came from. Or, if that's like, for example, on metadata, remember that Amber's attorney mentioned the metadata proof in her opening statement. So that's pretty important. She actually made a big deal about it. So I suspect that'll be I think what Johnny's team will be hoping for is something on the lines of, ruling out certain evidence. I don't think she'll go beyond that. At most, she would rule out some evidence because they haven't been able to show where it came from, provenance of it, that sort of thing. Can Depp's team use the written testimony of Amber's makeup gal during rebuttal? Here's what they could do. If it was in a deposition and for some reason they didn't have a video, which they had video in every one. So surely if it was a deposition, then yes, they can read from that. And so, back, when there weren't videos, people would go up and just literally read from the deposition. One person would play the witness, the attorney would be the attorney, and they would ask and answer the questions. But, and they would just read through the whole deposition. But in this particular case, I don't think that's, if what you're talking about is a statement, that's not going to be admissible. It has to actually be in a deposition format with cross-examination by the attorney or the side not offering it. Well, I've hit about the end of what I'm able to do today. I want to thank y'all so much for coming in. I'll do one last question. Is there anything less? Oh, I think I've answered them all. Fantastic. That was perfect. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing more analysis and talking about the trial from a trial lawyer's perspective. And I will definitely see you in the next video.